Logic isn't a personality trait. It's something you either have or you don't. It's a deep and complicated spectrum, and unfortunately, most people are operating somewhere near the bottom of it. I wouldn't say it's because they're just stupid. It's because nobody ever showed them that there was more. This video is a model for understanding how human reasoning actually develops, from the bottom, where most thinking happens, all the way to the top, where almost nobody goes. Let's get right into it. At level 1, thinking is almost entirely emotional. You react to situations without reasoning. Something happens, then your brain fires, and your response follows before you've consciously processed anything. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman spent decades studying this. He identified two systems of thinking. There's System 1, which is fast, intuitive, and emotional. And then there's System 2, which is slower, more rational, and more goal-oriented. Level 1 is pure System 1. Behavioral scientists estimate that 90 to 95% of all decisions happen automatically and unconsciously through this system. So when someone cuts you off in traffic and you feel rage before you've even thought about it, that's level 1. When you immediately agree with someone you like, or immediately dismiss someone you don't, that's level 1. When your opinions are determined by how the person saying it makes you feel, rather than what they're actually saying, level 1. Think of Achilles, the greatest warrior of the Iliad. He was undone not by an enemy, but by his own rage. Agamemnon insults him, and Achilles doesn't calculate anything. He doesn't strategize, he just reacts. He withdraws for the entire war out of pure wounded pride, and that one emotional decision cost the Greeks countless lives, including his closest friend. Homer wasn't writing a flaw, he was writing level 1, a man of immense skill, governed entirely by what he felt in the moment. Level 2 is where the brain starts using shortcuts. Instead of reacting purely emotionally, now you pull from experience. You've seen something before, so you apply the same conclusion. It feels like reasoning, but isn't quite there. The most common trap at this level is confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is the tendency to believe evidence that confirms pre-existing beliefs and discount information that counters them. Seeking to corroborate our beliefs comes naturally, when it feels uncomfortable and counterintuitive to look for evidence that contradicts them. This is most of cable news and most of social media. People reason and don't just react blindly like level 1. They start citing things and building arguments, but every argument is built backwards from a conclusion that they already held. Look at how differently two people can watch the exact same video and walk away with completely opposite proof of what they already believed going in. That's a big part of level 2. Most people graduate from level 1 and never leave level 2. They mistake pattern recognition for actual analysis. They feel logical because they're using reasoning. They just don't notice the reasoning is circular. Level 3 is the most dangerous place on this entire list. Because at level 3, you know enough to feel certain, but not enough to actually be right. And we have a name for that. It's the Dunning-Kruger effect. People with a low level of knowledge in a given domain overestimate their knowledge and ability. This meta-ignorance arises because lack of expertise often hides in the realm of unknown unknowns, disguised by background knowledge that only appears sufficient to conclude a right answer. Think about every person you've ever met who had a loud, confident opinion about something they barely understood. Economics, medicine, history, politics. They've read a few things, formed a view, and now they will defend that view with total certainty against people who actually know the subject. Look at something like Icarus. His father Daedalus built him wings, and he gave him precise instructions. Don't fly too low, the sea will dampen the wings. And don't fly too high, the sun will melt them. Icarus knows just enough to be airborne, just enough to feel powerful, and that small amount of knowledge convinces him he understands the limits of his situation completely. He doesn't. He flies straight at the sun. Confidence built on partial information is what kills him. Cognitive biases like this can make decision-making feel simpler and more obvious, but they get in the way of more nuanced thinking, especially when it comes to complex decisions. Level 4 is where you start actually reasoning. You stop looking for evidence to confirm what you believe and start looking at the actual structure of an argument. Does the conclusion actually follow from what came before it? This is what philosophy classes are actually trying to teach when they talk about syllogisms, deductive reasoning, and logical fallacies. It's not because those things come up in daily conversation. but because training your brain to see the bones of an argument, separate from whether you agree with the conclusion, is a completely different cognitive skill than anything at the levels below. Abraham Lincoln is the clearest historical example of this. As a young lawyer, he taught himself geometry, specifically Euclid's elements. He wanted to train his mind to recognize what an actual airtight argument looked like, premise by premise. That discipline shows up everywhere in his later reasoning. He could hold a position that he personally hated, like genuinely engaging with the constitutional arguments for slavery's legality, and dismantle it on its own structural terms, rather than simply being angry at it. Level 5 is where you start thinking about your own thinking. You start watching your own reasoning process from the outside. You'll find yourself catching yourself mid-thought and asking, wait, why do I actually think that? What really is driving my conclusion? Is it credible evidence or something lesser? Sherlock Holmes, the fictional version that most people are familiar with, is often credited with pure deduction. But the more interesting trait that Arthur Conan Doyle wrote into him is the constant narration of his own thought process out loud. He doesn't just reach conclusions, he'll interrupt himself, question his own assumptions mid-case, and revise his theory at the very moment that a single piece of evidence doesn't fit. He's watching himself think and correcting himself in real time. This is where the Dunning-Kruger curve starts to reverse, because people at level 5 have developed enough awareness to recognize the edges of their own knowledge. They know what they don't know. Level 6 is where you stop building on what other people have already concluded and start from the ground up. First principles thinking requires you to dig deeper and deeper until you are left with only the foundational truths of a situation. Something like breaking down complicated problems into basic elements and then reassembling them from the ground up. Through most of our lives, we get by reasoning by analogy, which is essentially copying what other people do with slight variations. First principles thinking is the practice of actively questioning every assumption you think that you know about a problem and creating new knowledge and solutions from scratch. Aristotle built the foundation for it. Descartes used it to strip away every assumption he held until only undeniable truths remained, famously refusing to accept anything as true until he reached the one thing he couldn't doubt, that he was thinking at all. Elon Musk actually applied the same method to rocket science, looking at the cost of a rocket launch, breaking it down to raw materials, and discovering the actual cost was a fraction of what the industry was charging. The rocket industry was reasoning by analogy. Musk was reasoning from first principles. Most people never reach level 6 because it's genuinely exhausting and it requires you to let go of comfort and put things into your own hands. At level 7, you understand that pure logic, divorced from everything else, is incomplete, and that emotion, intuition, experience, and reason all have a role. And the highest form of thinking isn't eliminating the lower systems, it's more of an integration of them. Unconscious processes such as emotion play a vital role in our more logical reasoning. And it is this integrative approach that makes decision-making meaningful, effective, and purposeful. Marcus Aurelius is probably the closest real example we have, a Roman emperor who was the most powerful man in the world at the time. He spent his private journal, what we now call meditations, constantly checking his own reasoning against his emotions rather than suppressing either one. He doesn't pretend to not feel grief, anger, or fear. He acknowledges them fully, and then asks what the wisest response is, given everything he knows and everything he feels. It's logic informed by emotion, and emotion checked by logic. This is philosophy's oldest goal, wisdom, the ability to reason well under conditions of genuine complexity and genuine uncertainty. Most people never get here. So where are you? The goal is awareness. It's knowing that levels exist, knowing which one you're operating from in any given moment, and having enough discipline to slow down, to ask yourself, before you react, before you conclude, before you post, before you argue, which level is this coming from? Because the most dangerous thought in the world isn't a wrong one. It's a wrong one that feels completely certain. I'm Forte, and thank you for watching.